Early last year, I visited my sister's family in Ireland for the first time since she moved there 18 years ago. My sister was overjoyed. Her stubborn younger sibling finally set foot in Ireland. My brother in law is originally from the East Coast, and they met there. The Malaysian expat community there, including my sister and her friends, had adopted many Western habits. One thing we found odd was their practice of leaving food uncovered on the table after meals. They said there weren't any flies to worry about, and with the cold weather, food took longer to spoil. But still, there are other creatures. During my stay, I made it my mission to cover all the pots and dishes. My uncle, who gets midnight cravings, often went to eat at night, so I would go down afterward to make sure everything was covered. My sister's house had a heater with a timer, which turned off automatically after a few hours. The morning temperature there was around -2 to 3 degrees Celsius, cold throughout the day. One night, though, I felt unusually warm despite wearing thick socks and being under a heavy blanket. Unable to sleep, I went downstairs to the kitchen to prepare breakfast, a habit of mine if I couldn't sleep, no matter the time. It was around 2 a.m. when I heard the sound of a spoon clinking against a bowl. I thought, maybe Uncle's hungry. Relieved, I figured I'd ask him what he wanted for breakfast and prepare it right away. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, I noticed the kitchen light wasn't on. Odd. I thought he'd turn it on. Without overthinking, I opened the kitchen door. Clang. A spoon hit the floor. The room was pitch black. I switched on the light and looked around. Nobody was there. The only thing out of place was an uncovered pot of curry. I didn't see a spoon on the table or the floor. Frustrated, I cleaned up and threw the curry out. A few days later, I told my sister about it. She's a scaredy cat, so her reaction was predictable. My sister's house is in County Kill, not far from Dublin Airport. I went there with 3 elderly relatives: mom, uncle, and aunt. Throughout our stay, I was the designated driver since my sister, despite having a license, couldn't drive. She was so excited that she took 5 days off work and even let her kids skip school to show us around Ireland. Except for Mom, who had been there multiple times, it was the first trip for the rest of us. One day we headed to Kilkenny, where my sister rented an Airbnb in Listerlin for one night to enjoy the countryside. Mom and I prepared food in advance since halal food is easy to find in cities but not in the suburbs. Plus, my uncle is always hungry at night. We traveled in 2 cars, my brother-in-law and I each driving. We stopped in Westport to stock up on snacks and food for my sister's 2 kids. That day was the first day of my period, and I was in pain, eager to collapse onto a comfy bed. A 3-hour drive stretched into 6 hours as we stopped to take photos of the beautiful coastline and grab coffee. Exhausted but entertained, we finally reached the Airbnb at 3 p.m. While my sister talked to the owner for the keys, I stretched outside the car. The house was long and narrow with a small local pub on the left. On the right, there were just rows of trees. When I turned around to lean against the car door, I saw it. Directly across from the entrance was a graveyard and an old church. My first thought wasn't fear, but annoyance, worried someone might struggle to sleep. The Airbnb's entrance led to a dining area with tall wooden chairs. The bedrooms were down a hallway to the left, while the kitchen and bathroom were on the right. My aunt and uncle took the master bedroom, while my sister's family stayed in the first room down the hall. Mom and I shared the second room. I explored every corner of the house, including the locked back door with a peephole that showed a pile of large stones outside. Nothing special. That evening, everyone was asleep by 9 p.m. except Mom, who knocked out by 8. Our room had a wardrobe with a mirror that originally faced the bed, but I moved it to face the wall instead. The window, covered by long curtains, overlooked the graveyard. I slept on the right side of the bed while Mom slept on the left. Around midnight, I woke abruptly, hearing the doorknob rattle. Thinking it might be my sister needing something, I opened the door. No one was there. I walked down the hallway to the dining area, thinking Uncle might be looking for food. The cold wooden floor made me shiver, though the heater was on. The dining room was empty. As I returned to my room, I heard a loud crash in the utility closet next to our room. Instantly alert, I froze. Earlier, I'd seen no shelves or furniture in that room. Standing at my door, I debated what to do. Mom's voice startled me as she asked if I was heading to the bathroom. I quickly locked the door and lay back down, checking the time. 12:04 a.m. The pub next door had closed and silence blanketed the house. Just as I was falling asleep, I heard knocking from inside the wardrobe. At first it was faint, but it grew louder and more persistent. Annoyed, I wanted to ignore it, but then the wardrobe shook. Turning toward Mom, I realized I couldn't move. My body was paralyzed. I panicked, wondering if the spirit understood Quranic verses. Should I recite them in English or Malay? Summoning all my strength, I mentally shouted in English, "I'm tired. I traveled far. Don't disturb me. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Take back your space." The knocking stopped immediately, and I could move again. I grabbed my phone, played Surah al-Baqarah, and recited protective prayers. Mom woke and asked what was wrong, but I told her I'd explain in the morning. That night, there were no more disturbances. The next day during our road trip, I recounted the experience to Mom and my sister. Mom said she never woke up, while my sister was too scared to ask questions. I just laughed nervously, grateful it hadn't happened to her.